All right, folks, we're now joined by Rabbi Steven Lewis of the Temple of Havat Achim on Middle Street in downtown Gloucester. Thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
So how have you been personally holding up through all of this in the last few weeks?
How have I been personally? Well, I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm very blessed that I live in a house that has a yard. Uh, I'm very aware that my kids, ages 5 and 7, I don't feel any pressure about them keeping up in school, and they tend to be curious, and so the homeschooling, which is really hard and relentless, I understand is much easier for me and my wife than for many people.
Right.
But I think that's the biggest, personally, it's to have the sort of new level of need and attention required for my community and my work, and then also having this sort of 24/7 with the kids, and trying to keep them at least contained during this period. But Laura and I are doing pretty well. You know, it feels like every new moment is a new thing. I don't know that we're ever going to get to a sense of normal in this, but we're just sort of improvising our way through it.
Mm-hmm. And how are you communicating with your congregation?
Well, just, we already sort of, our newsletter is a blast and email, and obviously that has increased. So we have now services. Our services are on Zoom, call them services, and we're having all sorts of meetings like this, virtual meetings. Where our school is running off of Zoom meetings, and we, like many people, have been very gratified that it works. That on a basic level, the experience of joining a Zoom meeting gives one the feeling that one has been face to face, and that a group has gathered, and which has been an incredibly powerful thing for people, and really a unique thing in this type of situation, right? Like, I have never experienced a pandemic, but it is a reoccurring phenomenon in human history. But never before have we been able to be face to face and deal with people's emotional needs and the need to see people and laugh together and cry together. You can do that without any exposure to the illness. And so there's a capacity that we have now for sort of attending to one another that we've never had before in human history because of the technology. And so it's been the groups that meet at the synagogue, the prayer groups and the study groups, are able to continue meeting, which I think has just been very positive and sort of calming, given the level of isolation that people are experiencing now.
That is so great to hear, because you're the first faith leader we've spoken to, and we haven't heard how these sorts of services are going. So that is great that people can, because that's the most important thing we need right now, right? Is to feel like we can reach out to that community and feel touched by them.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So that's happening, and yeah, again, what is going to feel normal, right? I went to lead the Shabbat morning service, and I forgot my laptop, right? So I don't know if your viewers are. It's so antithetical to the idea of the Jewish Sabbath to be putting your laptop on, right? It's like there's, traditionally there's no use of electricity, right? In a traditional community, and for people of traditional practice, you don't turn on or off a light. And so doing is very jarring. So I forgot my computer, because it's sort of insane that I would be bringing my computer with me for a Shabbat morning service. So then I had this very funny experience of trying to lift my desktop computer up into the air, and find boxes and things so I can lead the service. So there's all sorts of new challenges that we're going to face, and and we're making improvements and there's lots of challenges with the medium, and everyone has to be kind of patient and willing to go with it. One particular challenge is there are people in the community who do not have access, either because they don't have the equipment or because it's not comfortable with them. They can't figure out how to use it, and so while it's been overwhelmingly successful, we also really need to be quite attentive to the kind of corners of the community who are the most vulnerable people generally, who don't have this access of face-to-face interaction. And so I was very pleased that our board moved very quickly, and board members called every member of the community. So we sort of immediately reached out and tried to get everyone on the phone and check in with them and see how they were doing and see what kind of contact they would like in an ongoing way. And now with Passover coming a week from tomorrow, which seems unbelievable, we're trying to figure out how are people going to do Seders, virtual Seders. That's, one of the challenges on our plate, besides just trying to find out where the needs are in the community and respond to them.
Right. So I think you had said to me earlier, you're calling them Zaders, right? Because
yes, sure.
Yeah.
Zoom Zaders.
Yeah.
The new language of Zader. I had congregants who said, "Oh, I thought that was a typo." Like, no, we're calling them Zaders and services, and it's sort of cute, but also there's something about saying this is a different thing, and we need a different language for it. Right. And so we are all figuring out that language. The way you interact in this medium isn't the way you interact face to face. The way I lead a group in this medium isn't the way I lead a group face to face. And there are some opportunities that you don't have face to face in this medium. So we're all trying to learn how to use this new language and this new kind of mediated communication in a way that is most productive.
Anything that jumps to mind about one of the positives that's coming from this medium?
One of the, so for example, if you're leading a study session, you have the option of sharing your screen. So there's none of this, if you really want to share some, like a stanza of a poem, there's none of this like fumbling around if it's on the page in the book, or most people don't have it. So that is a small positive. Now the negatives outweigh the positives for sure. But figuring out how to avoid the things that are negative and utilize the things that are positive is great. Also positive, my Seder, my family Seder, who was coming to my Seder? My father, a couple of friends in Newton, and my cousin. So people from Newton and Providence, Rhode Island were coming to my Seder. They can't come to my Seder. But now my Seder has those people on Zoom, and my sister and her family in California, and my cousin and his family in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So now we have an intercontinental Seder, right? Now, for my sister, it'll be lunchtime. For my cousin, it'll be kind of late at night. But all of a sudden, you can include many more people, right? Now, it takes a lot of thought and planning and intention to do that right. I think that's the main thing, is that people practice and experiment with it and don't expect that you're going to have a Zoom meeting with 20 people and conduct a Seder if you've never convened those people for a Zoom meeting before. So it's extra work, but there are possibilities. And I think my main feeling about this moment, and it's what I said to my community when we had a board meeting. We had a board meeting scheduled for Monday night, right? The day, right? We closed everything down on Friday, and we had no services, and we didn't figure out that quickly. I didn't figure out that quickly how to do anything virtual. And then Monday we had a board meeting, and the question that I had been feeling and that I posed to the board is, how do we come out of this stronger as a community? Mm. Because all of these things of finding different ways to communicate, of making sure we be stronger as a community, we'll have found ways of connecting that are deeper than we had before, right? We're not going to take certain things for granted the way we have before. And so there's a scenario here where we can come out of this stronger, and we can be more focused on the things that are most important, and just the value of being together, and supporting one another. And so it's a crisis, but every crisis also is an opportunity. And it's very clear to me within a faith community that the opportunity is to reaffirm the essential quality of caring for one another, and finding ways to support everybody. And then, of course, we also have to be mindful of, the communities are very porous, right? There's no real firm boundary between my community and the rest of the Gloucester community. And so it's figuring out ways that we can do this collectively, and had at least one really productive conversation with the Associated Clergy of Cape Ann to think collectively about this as well. But that's the opportunity we have, and it's going to take people being attentive and being creative and giving of themselves. I think it's I think it's going to be very important for people looking back at this to feel as if they tried to make a positive contribution, that they didn't sort of just hit pause and retreat into their homes. Especially as I'm expecting when things get more dire and more pressing and more life and death scenarios, there's going to be a huge gap between the people who are really suffering and the people who are safe. And I think for the people who are safe, it's going to be important for them to have made every effort to make a contribution for their own sort of spiritual health moving forward. And that's why these efforts about making masks for the hospitals and donations and those things are critically important, not only for first responders and the people who are really taking risks on everyone's behalf right now, but also for the people who are safe, to feel like they didn't just sit it out while other people were suffering and taking risks. So I think it's a real gift, I feel, for my community to say, hey, we need your help, and here's how we want you to help. So I hope people are not refraining from asking others to contribute, because that is going to be something that is going to make them feel much more grounded and satisfied about the role they played looking back at this thing.
That's really nice.
Beautifully said.
Do you have any, do you or do any of the people in your congregation have any serious questions for God right now? I mean, we are at a precipice. And I know that's a heavy question, but yeah. I think ultimately almost all of us have kind of asked it. And there's things that we're going to ask. No,
of course. I mean, look, I hope people have serious questions. If you're living life fully, then you should be having serious questions for God all the time. It's Jewish tradition that you got three times a day. You're sort of required to get in there and be in conversation. So, for me, the sort of theological issue of where is God in this, as theological issues of where is God in this go, this one's not so hard, because the human imperative and our capacity to make this go better or worse is so apparent, right? I mean, a lot of us are preaching, me and my clergy colleagues across religious affiliation and denomination are preaching about the reality of the unity of existence, right? Which, in the traditional language is that God's presence fills all of creation. right? And a basic sort of tenet of mystical tradition is that God is present. God's presence is the reality, but we're blind to it. We only see division, right? But that actually the divine is manifest in all things, right? And in all people. So that's, that's kind of, we're preaching that a lot. And here we have a situation where it's just so palpable, so physicalized, that the way you behave, your ethical behavior and careful behavior, has a direct impact on the health of everyone you meet and then everyone they meet, right? So your casual behavior, without thinking about the needs of other people, God forbid, could lead to somebody's death, right?
Right.
So this kind of preaching about how we're all interconnected and everything is a unity, I don't know that we've ever lived that reality so tangibly as we're living it now. Like, you have responsibility to the health and safety of everyone around you. Now, you can always say that, but we've never really felt it, right? We never really felt it the way we do now. It hasn't been so like practical. Yeah, it's just right in your face. So if you can't get the idea of like humanity is all intertwined and is one thing, responsible for each other, like this is kind of like Unity 101. And so for me, like, where is God in this? Like, God wants us to actualize the reality of the unity of all being and the fraternity of all humanity. Like, that's it. I mean, that's always the imperative, but man, this really opens it up in a very clear way. So that's it. I mean, there's never like, this idea, that we are partners with God and we are trying to manifest godliness in the world. Like, it doesn't, this one doesn't take a whole lot of like deep introspection to figure out what you're supposed to do that. So in some ways, I think it's a great moment to connect with God.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Lewis. That was really nicely said and a really nice exchange. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Let's stay interconnected, Rabbi. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah.
Okay. We should sing. We should sing. I think singing. I've been singing, and it's a good. It's a very strengthening practice. Prayer and song, and so encourage people to also sing together.
Just
so we
on Zoom together, or to just walk around their house singing.
Well, definitely walk around your house singing and
right.
Sing with your kids if you have them around. Zoom. One of the problems with Zoom singing in a group is really I don't know the technology that allowed a group to sing together.
Yeah.
That would be a really wonderful thing to have, because singing together is one of these very basic human things that it's hard to do, that Zoom is not good for. But I think, songs of strength and resilience are really good practice right now.
I love that advice. So thank you very much. Corey, you and I are going to start singing.
Yeah, Zoom karaoke. It's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is a song, the words of the song are from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. He was a great mystical Hasidic master of the 19th century. And the words are, and there's a Hebrew and then English. The words are, the whole world is a very narrow bridge, but the essential thing is not to be afraid. Kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod. Kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod. העיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל, והעיקר לא לפחד כלל. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. But the main thing to recall is to have no fear at all. But the main thing to recall is to have no fear at all. והעיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל, והעיקר לא לפחד כלל.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
That was
Thank you.
beautiful.
I've been singing that a lot with my kids, and I find when I am singing, the essential thing is not to be afraid. It helps me deal with my fear. So I hope that it will help other people as well.
Oh, I can't wait to share that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Rabbi Lewis, thank you so much.
Right.
It's great. And we
Thank
hope
you.
we can catch up with you again.
Yes, that would be great.
Be well.
And
All right. You too.
all the best for you and your family and during the Passover season. Thank you.
Thank you.